She's not the one holding the machine, but she's the reason it's running smoothly. From navigating economic slowdowns to setting safety standards that go beyond the basics, Kris Lachance has spent decades turning Splash of Color Tattoo into one of the most respected studios in the Midwest. Her mission? To make sure tattooing stays not just bold, but safe, sterile, and smart. In an industry where egos can overshadow ethics, Kris brings it back to what matters most: integrity, safety, and sustainability. Let's get into it. This is the business of tattooing. How's business been?
We're staying steady, man. So I have no complaints.
Yeah.
No complaints. With everybody's just slow as fuck right now, it seems. And I mean, this is definitely the slowest summer we've had in a good decade or so.
Really?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So, but hey, but everybody's still steady. You know what I mean? We're just not busy, if that makes sense. So, and being in
Yeah.
a university town, summers are traditionally our slow time anyway. So we're like opposite of the industry, more or
It's
less.
just been slower for you than it has been in the past decade even then.
Yeah, for a summer.
Yeah.
For a
How
summer.
how how, how much has it slowed down for you? I mean, not necessarily in
I mean, it's
dollars,
not
but
like diving off a cliff, noticeable, but it's definitely 20-30% down for sure. Where cancellations, like, dudes that are usually booked out a month or two in advance are getting like today, Perry had a last minute cancel for, and he just does usually one tattoo all day. So when those drop off, it's kind of like, well, shit. There's
right.
and you drive an hour and a half to get to work to have them cancel last minute. It kind of, you know.
Yeah,
But
are all your guys taking deposits?
oh yeah, yeah, I'm
So even
hardcore
with deposits,
on deposit.
people are still just canceling.
Yeah, and it's amazing how much people don't give a fuck about $50 or $100. Depends on the block of time is what determines the amount of the deposit. So it's anywhere from 50 to 150, depending on, your time slot and how many people are just like, oh fuck it. Okay.
Yeah, how
But
many artists do you have at your shop now?
5 right now. I've been really understaffed for a good since COVID,
Oh,
really.
really?
I can solidly run 7 to 8 artists and keep them busy all the time. Um, but it's just demographics have changed. Um, Lansing area is not huge. It's not like the thriving metropolis of a major, it's not like Detroit, bigger city,
Right.
Grand Rapids. So, we went from Splash being like one of maybe 4 shops to now one of 40
In what time span? How quick is that growth
over
happen?
the last, I'd say, and the same as industry wide, probably over the last decade or so. It's just everybody, I can open my own shop. Like, why work for somebody else if I can make 100%? And it's like, well, dude, okay, have fun with that. And then, shop spawn shop, I've worked really hard, long. I can't expect anyone to stay here forever other than me. Um, but turnover is not, it's not cool. It's not convenient. It's expensive. It's time consuming. It's a pain in the ass. And I've always run the shop with the premise of you take care of people, people take care of you. That bites you in the ass sometimes because to my detriment. Um, but at the same time, in all good karma, if you're gonna go open a shop 6 blocks or a mile from me, I mean, more power to you. Do you, boo? All you can do is wish people the best.
Yeah, do you
And
guys have apprentices there, or do you take apprentices?
no, our last apprentice. So I had an artist that started apprenticing, someone like just a year before COVID hit. And then after COVID, they decided I'm going to go open my own shop and then just left the apprentice here. And so thankfully the crew, everybody pitched in and was like, okay, you've got a lot invested in this person over the last year. And then so that took, because of everything, about another 6 months ish before we were comfortable with them being on clients. Um, And then that was the last apprentice. Of course, like every shop, we get people, and I'm not going to say daily, but a couple weekly for sure, that
Yeah,
stop
yeah.
in looking for apprenticeships and what have you. And no one has, we're understaffed as it is. My crew is working, they don't have time for that right now. And very honestly, the majority of people coming in for that don't have the skill set. Like, unless I look at your shit and I'm like, wow, it's just not worth it. I don't want to feed the apprenticeship. You know what I mean? It's
Right, right.
there's too many people doing shit they shouldn't be doing these days, man. There's a reason I chose to never tattoo. You know, I'm not an artist, and I've been told many times over the years, and I've been offered apprenticeships way back in the day. Dennis offered to apprentice me. Um, other dope ass artists that have worked here, and I'm not an artist. And to me, that's like the biggest disrespect to the art form. And I've had, you ain't gotta, hey, you don't have to draw the tattoo, you just gotta trace real good. And I'm like, no, bullshit, man. Like, that's a prerequisite that Dennis established back in the day. He didn't hire anybody that couldn't draw, because back then you didn't have a choice. Everything was hand stencil, everything was done by hand. So I grew up in that. 93 is when I started working at Splash. So I worked here, good, 4 years before things transitioned into me buying the shop from Dennis. And it just, you have to draw a tattoo. It's like it's a prerequisite. It's like a base fundamental 101 of, you know. So yeah, so I've never laid a line. Um, Even though we're like, oh, we should just do a little SOC on the people, you should tattoo everybody that works here. I'm like, no, man, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. But do you want to sit down and talk about how to be clean and how to be safe all day? I got you.
Yeah, let's talk about that then. Just about how you got involved with Splash of Color back then and how that all came to be and what your original involvement was with that and what your interest was there. How did you get started there?
Well, kind of precursor to that, like the end of high school, I started working in a dentist office, and worked from receptionist to insurance biller to sterilization tech. And then when I graduated, they offered me a chairside assistant position. So that's where I had my introduction to bloodborne pathogens, infection control, sterilization, all of that. And then I was in that for a couple years, and then my brother and all my friends started hanging out, kicking it at the tattoo shop. And so we all started kicking it at the tattoo shop. And Dennis and I we clicked. We got to be really good friends. So, I'd get out of work and hang out at the tattoo shop, like, as hours were like open noon to midnight. And then at midnight it was closed, but we were all there till 2, like,
Mhm.
um, and one day Dennis just said, you're here all the fucking time anyway, and you've got a head for this shit. This is not my thing. And I see this growing and getting bigger. And you have that infection control background where, I'm like, yo, dude, don't reach in that ultrasonic rinse cup with bare hands, bro. Not a good idea. You're gonna kill yourself. Um, he's like, why don't you manage my shop? What are they paying you at the dentist office? And I told him, he's like, I'll beat it by $5 an hour. Come work for me. So I started managing for him in 94, I believe, 94. And as cliche as, I mean, it's the first place I ever fit, if that makes sense. Like
Mhm.
you just be yourself and you're just kicking it with your homies, man. But then there's also that when you're no longer just kicking it with your friends, now you're put in a managerial position, which, changes the dynamic a little bit, but you still want to be cool with everybody. But then there's that.
But now you got to be boss lady.
So, and back then I was probably the most, I'm not saying I was completely sober, but I was probably the most sober of a lot of people. Um, and we got to a point, there were some ethical differences because no one plans to just love crank more than life. And, and addiction is real. And so, Dennis had the monkey on his back, man, and he'd show up and grab the money and leave for a few days, and then we had to stash the money in like shoe boxes up in the drop ceiling, or like behind the speaker, or trying to find he'd
Yeah,
find it every fucking time. That dude would find it.
yeah.
The lights, we never knew if the lights were going to be on, or if the landlord was going to have the doors locked, or if we were going to have power, or back in landline phone days, if we were going to have a phone. Um, so there was a lot of that, and a lot of bartering and trading, if you will, instead of like cash money paying clients. So at the time, Sean Peters, we were partners, and we're like, man, it's just too much. It's just too much. So we left and worked for another studio, Creation Station, owned by Ray Putman, awesome dude. He's like, yeah, you come manage, Sean, you come work, and we worked there. And then I got preggers while I was there. My whole family's like, you need a real job. You need to get out of that. Da, 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 da. It's like, but this is what I love to do. But we also realized once we left Splash, how much we missed Splash. You know what I mean? It's every shop is not the same. Every vibe is not the same. And granted, there were very good people where we were at. It had nothing to do with anything other than just home is home, I guess you could say. Um, and it worked out that the day after my daughter was born, my dad passed away, and I got an inheritance. Dennis was incarcerated at the time. There were injunctions by both landlords to basically he was losing the shops. And at that
Yeah.
time there were two locations, still all my friends. So I approached him with an offer and just said, hey, if I can give you a fresh start where you can just take this and go do whatever, but not here,
Right, right.
And he's like, if it was anybody else, I'd say fuck no, but for you and Sean, fuck yeah, I'll do it. And January 22nd, 1997 was the day we signed the line. But I also, made sure to cover my ass, in that I knew from managing where things financially stood and how things rolled. So I made sure with my attorney that it was like, I wanted in there that I'm responsible for no back taxes, no back debt, that I'm legally changing the name from A Splash of Color Tattooing to Splash of Color Tattoo and Piercing Studio. We put it under an S Corp to better protect, to take the steps I needed to ensure that none of that old shit. And even
Sure.
when you think you're rid of the old shit, man, it still pops up. It's like, no, I didn't. Just got, it's nope, not like that. Here's my attorney. Talk to my attorney. Um, and it was a big transition. I mean, we were stoked about it, and I felt that the industry was only going to continue to grow. My family thought I was pissing away my inheritance. Well, you're fucking pissing away that inheritance. Well, no, I don't, that's not what my gut tells me. And my partner's a dope ass fucking tattooer. All my friends are here. Having a kid, could be our child's legacy. In my experience, tattoo shops raise great kids.
Yeah.
And we can build something, and Sean at the time, he's like, I don't want to run a business. I just want to tattoo. And that's kind of where my premise and my mindset was, because I watched Dennis try to run a business and be a practitioner. And it burned him the fuck out. There's a reason, you know what I mean? He sought the extracurriculars he did. He was stressed the fuck out, man. There's a lot,
Right,
and
right.
club life, it was a different time, it was just a different time. So my premise was always, okay, I just want to be able to take everything off the shoulders of the artists and piercers, so that all they have to do is focus on their art form, because, as a tattooer, you're never off. Like, you don't just come to work and leave work and go home, and, you're drawing, you're in public. Oh, what's that? What's that? How much for that? You can't go anywhere without, you're always on.
Right.
So not having to worry about taxes and inventory and supplies and whether the lights are going to be on, whether the phone's going to, all of that. Advertise, all the things that go with running a business. Now, granted, I have no college degree. I don't know. I didn't know. I just did what I thought logically made sense, what is fair, and what's in the best interest of the longevity of the studio.
Right.
Not necessarily my personal opinion. That has to, you got to find a way to kind of set that shit aside, take what information you have at the moment, and sometimes you don't have all the information right now. And in retrospect, are there things I would do different? Fuck yeah, like a million of them. However, in all good conscience, I can say I've made every decision I've had to make, even the really hard ones, in good faith of the longevity of the studio and what I thought was true and fair in the moment, you know. And then I got involved with Dave Vidra, and that all came to be because I had a piercer here who was the first APP member in Michigan, April Williams Warner at the time, and she was in connection. She went to first APP conference. She was very involved from like day one. And when I bought the shop, I'm like, we need some infection control. We need just, and I knew at that point that it was federally required because of the nature of the practice. We had that exposure, right? And I just wanted my staff, my friends, my family to be safe. Because from my perspective, a tattoo artist has the greatest risk occupationally within a studio setting because of microspray, what's your ear,
Right.
so rationale, my thinking is if tattooers are safe, everybody else is Gucci. We're good, you know. Because the client's dealing with one artist or one piercer, maybe a front of the house person, but how many clients is that artist seeing or piercer a day, a week, a month, a year? You know what I mean? And that on top
Right.
of that, I just wanted everybody to be safe. So of course there's a lot of pushback because it wasn't, they just started wearing gloves like 5 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, um, but when you can break it down to the rationale of this isn't meant to be a pain in your ass. I don't want the fucking government in my business any more than anybody else does. This isn't a open invite to, hey, come on. No, this is a no, we got this. Like we're gonna protect ourselves. And that's the base of all of it is to protect ourselves. And then that kind of grew into linking up with Dave. He came and did our first official bloodborne class for the staff. And I was like, man, that was the aha moment of I don't tattoo, but this is how I can give back because Dave was a piercer and APP and all of that was very piercing oriented. APT was around for a few years at that point, but it wasn't heavy press, you know what I mean, as well known
Sure.
or really pushing education as much as APP was. And just again, locally, this all started locally. I was, Dennis worked with our health department. I started working locally. And then when Dave and I linked up, I was like, okay, you're the piercer dude. I don't tattoo, but tattooers do what they do and do it well. This is my way of contributing to that in a way that will hopefully help keep it clean, keep it safe, and give us that longevity. I'd much rather people choose when to stop tattooing than have to because they have Hep C or ergonomics or because the powers that be decide that you're those people and shut you the fuck down,
Right. Right.
or overregulate to the point that it's impossible to do it. So that's kind of where it all evolved from and working with Dave. And then I think it was 2002. I also started teaching for APT, and then I was a board member from 02 to 05. It took them a year to realize I didn't tattoo. What do you mean you don't tattoo? I'm like, I never said I tattooed, man. Like, have none of you, like, you don't vet this? Like, clearly I'm an educator. Like, Sister Bear was a huge influence. She was fucking awesome. But really got me involved on the education side of that. I was like, I'm here from the education standpoint. You know what I mean? Sean Anderson was president at the time, Bob
Hmm.
Montagna, Jack Rudy. You know, I had a board of fucking awesome, like legends. And this girl non-tattooer. Um, so, you know, you get a lot of shit for that, but at the same time, it's being true to what you're doing and again doing it for the right reasons. I'm doing this to pay my dues to contribute to the whole. Um, because it's not an instant gratification thing, you know, it's not until 2 or 3 years after a class when you have a class with the same person and they come back and they're like, yo, I had this situation and I'm so glad I took your class because I knew exactly what to do, man, and that helped me so much. And then you're like, that's why I do what I do. Not the I want to be in this fucking class. I'm here because I gotta be. Who the fuck are you?
Right.
You know, um, and any educator will tell you you're not doing it for the money. You know, it's
Right.
because you care, you know, and again, that whole there's a rule of pay your dues in this industry, you know, or there used to be. Um, and that was my way, you know, put your head down, work hard, let the work speak for itself. I've always been more of a behind the scenes, as y'all know. I'm not the woo woo, look at me, you know, I don't, it's not my style at all, man. I just, you know, want to put my best work out there and hope that the ripple effect of that over time just helps people and has helped the industry 30 years into being in a better, safer place professionally and respected the way it should be respected. Instead of, oh, you're just a
Yeah.
bunch of dirty fucks, you know? No,
Right.
no, no, we're not. We're probably clean. Guarantee you, I've worked in some dentist offices. We're cleaner, guaranteed. So,
Yeah, it's interesting. And a big part of the reason, obviously, why I wanted to get you on the podcast was because we've had a relationship, you know, for a few years now where we talk a lot about cleanliness and you know, just safety and stuff that you're passionate about. And I know you're up in Michigan, and it seems that you have a very strict board of health up there in regards to certain things. I don't is Michigan a state that's more county by county like
yes,
Indiana is? So you
yes.
probably have some counties that are really loose and then some counties that are really tight.
In '08, we finally had a minimum state regulation pass. So there are minimum state standards, but that being said, counties can meet it or beat it, right? So you have some counties that do the very bare minimum, and then you have counties that might go, you know, above and or just a little too much, maybe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it really depends where you're at. The studios are licensed, practitioners are not.
What
But
does
there
that mean
are,
in terms of what does that mean in terms of like legalities, like the studio's license, but the practitioner isn't? What kind of does that put a different amount of liability on the shop?
oh, I think so. Absolutely. Because the shop's liable for all of it. Right. And then if you have, like in any industry, you're going to have some bad actors that shop hop and hope their past doesn't catch up to them, but it does, you
Sure.
know? So if they're not individually licensed, you know what I mean? Like being
Right.
better aware and having issues documented. Um, it's a little trickier. I'm a big fan of having insurance to cover your ass on all ends. So,
Sure.
professional program insurance brokerage out of California has done our liability stuff for 25 years and support the industry like wholehearted, like they're good people out there. So, does it make you a little sick when you got to write that check every year? Yeah, because you're like, well, thankfully, I've
Yeah.
never had an issue, never had a claim, but it's there if you need it, you know. And I'd rather
Right.
have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So you just gotta, it's you gotta vet your people as best you can, but you know, it's people can look great. A portfolio can look great. People can look great on paper. They can interview well. We try to do the whole, hey, come hang out for a guest spot for whatever week or two or however long we decide, and then see if it's a good fit. Um,
Right.
because it's not just filling a chair for the sake of income. you've got to have the right chemistry. And that is something I have learned over the years that it's not the number of artists you have for volume, it's the quality of the work that you're putting out. And if you don't have some synergy and you know that dynamic amongst artists where you can bounce shit off of each other without getting butt hurt and just help each other grow and be better, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It takes one lazy motherfucker or dirty motherfucker or you know just or just somebody that just comes in with just a shit attitude every day to just bring the whole show down, you know. So it's a and we're dealing with artists who are generally speaking more introverted, not so much. I mean, it's again changed over the years with social media. People are more out there now, but you know, people skills weren't necessarily in communication or on like the top two strength list. You know what I mean? This is something
Right.
that you have to work on
Right. So you were pretty passionate about safety all the way back in the beginning
from jump.
from jump before a board of health or anybody ever came and brought it to
Yeah.
the tattoo studio probably. So how have you seen the progression of the enforcement or the I guess from a regulatory position, how have you seen that um, evolve over the years?
It went from wild, wild west to certain pockets of health departments would hear the rationale and see the need. But I don't think, I mean, I started working towards like a regulatory state minimum and with dentists in like 94, 95. It didn't pass till 2008. Money.
Sure.
When they see there's money to be made from licensing, and I hate to say it, but it's more the regulatory side is more finance, in my opinion, in my experience, is more financially driven than health and safety driven. Because who gives a fuck about those people? I literally had a senator down at the state capitol tell me, you you people, if you choose to desecrate your body the way you do, you deserve what you get. I said, yeah, until it's your granddaughter that comes home, you know, with a fucked up piercing or tattoo or gnarly MRSA infection that you're gonna be like, oh, maybe there's something to this, you know.
Right.
So I think it grew kind of out of necessity as the industry blew up and more reactive once. I mean, MRSA wasn't even on the radar when we first started, you know. I mean, Hep B, Hep C, those were the big ones. And HIV early 90s was still
Yeah, a problem.
they thought was worse than Hep, which it's not, but you know what I mean? It was still that mystery. There wasn't the
Sure.
documentation, the longevity of you know, all of that. Um, so I think it evolved from again, them looking at the industry and seeing what the industry itself had done from APP, APT, independent instructors, health and safety. You know, David and I had Health Educators Incorporated, so you know we were all over. But there was a lot of pushback. I mean, there was a lot of pushback from regulatory and from the industry. Very honestly, like you know, you're trying to invite the government in. You're trying to, you know, no, no, no. I have a shop too. That's the last fucking thing I want, you know. But and then we and kept saying, you know, the days for us to self-regulate are that window is closing, folks. Like, it's and I understand the trade secret mentality, the you know what I mean, the
Mhm.
guardianship of the art form and wholeheartedly respect that. But at the same time, health and safety is health and safety is health and safety. And if people are going to be doing this, they should at least know how to keep themselves safe because if they're safe, their clients have nothing to worry about, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of always been my focus.
Yeah, it could be like one of the it's interesting because I've been getting ever since I started the ink company a few years ago, I've gotten really well, I got invited out to do you remember when the CTS was
Mhm.
around, 2018-ish? So I had got invited out to Vegas to be, sit in a couple of those meetings, and that's really when I started really understanding, regulation, spotlight on the tattoo industry, and really started getting interested in it myself. But even before that, it was always interesting me, owning a supply shop, just sometimes making deliveries to different tattoo studios and just seeing the differences from one studio to the
Huge.
next studio, even just in relation to cleanliness or, aftercare procedures or whatever the case may be. I think it's just always been all over the place, and it's like even today, I still feel like in 2025, I feel like education is a big thing that's lacking in our industry, right? So, and I think that's where the APT comes in, with the education piece.
Absolutely.
But I think it's like artists, and unfortunately, you don't have traditional apprenticeships available like you did back then.
Oh,
And you have a lot more, fine art people coming into the tattoo scene. Not, they're just going straight past go, opening up shops, like you said. Are they educated on safety? Are they educated on bloodborne pathogens? Are they educated on first aid? Who the hell knows? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
probably, I don't even know. I don't even know what to guess to say how many are and how many aren't. But it's interesting. Here we are in 2025, and because you're right, that window is like it's been going on for a really long time. Like,
Yeah. Decades.
and now it's almost like almost all the way closed. And I was
Yeah.
just out in Dallas, Texas, like 3 weeks ago for the AFDO conference, and they have the body art track there. And this is a conference just filled with food and drug officials, inspectors, and I was just really surprised. It was the first time I was there. I was surprised that there's been a few key figures there that have been going there for a long time, like Brian Everett and Steve Joyner and guys like that. But there isn't a lot of fresh blood in there. I mean, it's like there's no one really representing the industry there except for those guys that have been there for forever. So I thought that was kind of, um disturbing in some way, right? Like,
It is, man. And even on, I sat on Michigan State Board of Health for 25 year, quarter century. And unless there was a special interest of a reason a shop owner or someone felt the need to show up at a meeting, I was the only industry representation 90% of the time for 25 years. And I'm not a practitioner.
and how did that go for you? Like when you're in these
And
meetings and because you just said a few minutes ago, you were like, they're going to just come through and basically create these regulations without our input. Was that kind of the sense that you got when you're just kind of standing alone in those rooms? And
yeah, absolutely. And it's, and they're grabbing everything from medical and dental, right? Because
uh,
that's the only reference they have. So that's where you have to have your shit together and present your case that, like, no, we don't need sterile gloves to tattoo and pierce, man. That's over the top. Nobody's even understand the educational process to use that effectively. And it's cost prohibitive. So, there's these arguments that you can absolutely do a clean and safe procedure with medical grade exam gloves. You don't need sterile surgical gloves, so, or sharp safety or different issues. And, to be there to represent that, no, that's how you do it in a medical setting. We are not medical. We are lay people. We're dealing with just some infection, but we're not nearly as invasive. It's as they would deem it, even though I hate the term, like a cosmetic invasive procedure, it's words matter, and you have to learn. You don't recommend shit, you suggest everything based on your professional experience. You got to learn the game, man. You got to learn
right,
the
right.
game, um and be willing to put yourself out there and to take the knocks and take the hits, because they're coming not just from the regulators that have college degrees, that are medical professionals, that be all know all. Then you've got the industry. Well, who are you to be there? Well, no, you're not here. Where the fuck are you? You show up, man. Like it's open to everyone, you know. Um, but being in a studio every single day, um, and at the time being married to a tattooer, so as a home, you know, and roommates were all tattoo, you know, so we bullshit like you said, you don't leave it at work, and it's this constant evolution. Is this taking it above? Is this too high? Like, where's that happy? You know, you don't want to be so base minimum that a hair below that you're dangerous. You want to bump it up just a notch, but you don't need to be like way the fuck up here either. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
got to find that happy doable medium that will encourage compliance, not we're pirates and gypsies, man. We don't want anybody telling us what the fuck to do. There's a reason we're in this industry. I don't do authority well, you know.
Right. Right.
Um,
Anti-conformist.
and what's in it for me? Everybody want what's in it for me? Well, what's in it for you is your longevity, it's your health. It's not contracting fucking hep C. Look at how many people that have been in this game over 30, 40, even 50 years, statistically, especially our old school. There's a lot of hep C positive tattooers
Yeah.
that, you know, sponge in a bucket, bro.
Right.
You know, it's come a long way. And so it has the tough thing for me was within all of that pushback was to present it from the industry side that this is for you. This is to protect you personally in your own self-interest, but also to protect your business from getting fucking sued. And so you can have the longevity of your business. And then when regulators, not if, but when they decide to catch up and come in, you can say, you know, we got this, man. This is how we roll. And there's consistency. And there's sterilization is what it is. Infection control, it's science, man. It's not opinion based. So it's very, I'm not gonna say easy, but it was easier to make those arguments because you're just adapting it for a different environment. It's the process is still the same. Now it's gotten a lot easier since, you know, you're not having to make your own needles anymore and you're not having to be in a sterilization room processing tubes. Now that tattooing is pretty much, I mean, it's going to vary shop to shop, artist to artist, but here anyway, it's totally disposable.
Right.
So that made life a fuck ton easier in the evolution of things. And it also kept the tattooers and the piercers out of that. You got to keep them separated.
Right.
So it's the challenge has been in that regulatory environment. You realize the weight you're carrying is you're the representative of your industry. The misconception that I would get pushed back on a lot in Michigan is you just want people to run your shop like you. You want people to be fucking doctors. You're trying to just make everybody be splash. Da, da, da. No, no, bro. No, I am not. I am an independent business owner and my competitive edge is my competitive edge. And I ain't sharing everything with you. But health and safety is health and safety, and everyone has a right. Everyone deserves to be safe from the practitioner on down. I will share that shit till I do not have a breath left in me. But
Right.
how I choose to run my business per se, well, that's my business, you know?
Well, also not only that, but I think the one thing that I always try to message to people when I'm talking to people is that specifically around regulations and safety, it's like what you just said. Hey, I'm not trying to be anything. I'm not trying to dictate what you should be doing, but realize that if you're doing things incorrectly in a way that's going to cause harm to you, it's ultimately going to cause harm to everyone. So
That
so that's really the message that people should be hearing is that
good news never makes the news, man.
it's like
You know?
we have to work to protect each other in the whole industry. It's
Yes.
not we're not independent ships floating around in the ocean, living by our own laws and standards. We have to adhere to the overall, safety
Umbrella.
protocols that are out there, or we have to help create them, like you said. And I have found that too. It's like even talking to the regulators out in Texas, or I mean the inspectors rather, uh, out there, they basically just said, hey, we're not looking to shut anybody down. We need to understand your business. We're trying to understand your business from your point of view so that we can come up with
Right.
procedures that are fair and that we
That
can all
work.
agree on and that work. Like we don't want to come in there and shut you down. We It's interesting though to hear you say the money part because I really got a sense that from the people that I was talking to that they genuinely do put public safety first. Like that's their main primary concern is public safety. And I know that you're focused a lot on the actual practice part and like but how much involvement have you had in the actual product part? So like for example, like you use specific products in your shop. Some of your board of health might come through and say, oh, we don't want you to use alcohol or whatever, green soap or whatever the case may be. I know some inspectors look at things different and so what's your experience been on the product side of safety?
So I decided for consistency, like I guess my shop's a unicorn in the sense that everyone here has been employees since 2001. And that really started from tax issues with some contractors that didn't, that I got. But when you have several different people using whatever, if there's a reaction with a client, like way back in the day, Tattoo Goo had sulfa in it. I had an artist that used it during the tattoo, recommended it for aftercare, and that client ended up in the ER. And I was like, well, we have to have some consistency in what's being used in the shop. So for liability, because I think in terms of liability, what is the intended use of the product? And again, for years we were adapting from medical and dental. We have a lot of industry, way more, not best ever as far as industry specific products now. We didn't then, you know. So we would go from what is the intended use of the product? Would it be appropriate in this type of scenario? And then we'd use it on ourselves and see, or our friends. And, before we started like putting it into actual shop rotation, what works and getting the feedback from, yes, I'm supplying everything, but I'm not going to tell you exactly. I'm not going to tell you what needle. You guys are going to tell me what needles work best for you once they stop making their own. What cartridges work best for you. What pigments work best for you. We're in Michigan, obviously. We use a lot of Eternal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so really going from what legally will stand up in court if there is a contraindication. Like, why the fuck would you use it that way? That's not what it's meant to be used for. To what is going to give the best outcome of the tattoo. Because as you know, all products are not created equal. Like there's a lot of shit on the market too. And people have come and gone. And through the years of education, and with health educators, Dave dealt with it more so than I did. But we just tried to align ourselves with artist owned or industry owned or people that really took a genuine care and interest in the industry. I mean, obviously it's a business and everybody needs to make money, but it wasn't profit driven. It was more quality driven. Like we want to make this for you guys. How can we make this better for your industry? So the huge opportunity with health ed is and downfall. You have people coming at you, try this, try this, try this, try this. So you had the opportunity to try a lot of stuff sometimes before it even went to market or to do the trial runs. Or the R&D side of it and all of that. And once I find something that I know works and is tried and true, I'm a loyal motherfucker. Like unless you can show me how and why something is better, and that manufacturer will stand behind us should a complication arise. I'm open to let's talk about it. Let's see, because things are evolving all the time. You have to be open to change. I mean, that's the one constant, right? but there are certain things that are tried and true for a reason at the same time,
Yeah.
so a lot of, I don't just sit in my office like, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to do
Right,
this
right.
that's cheapest and I get the best deal from this dude, that's not it. I do not buy the cheapest of anything. I will buy in the bulkiest quantity to get the best price point on the quality shit we use. Because that's just, what you got to do for business, but it's the best tools, equipment, and supplies are going to put out the best product.
Yeah.
It's going to keep your people happy. You know what I mean? So, and there's been, when new people come to, even when we were starting to change things and evolve that way, going from completely independent, cash in pocket every day, using whatever I wanted, to, we're using this now. And it's a hard sell sometimes, but it's literally sitting down and saying, okay, product A over here versus B over here, you know, this is this is the chemical makeup. Do you know how many chemicals you're exposed to in a fucking day? On top of,
Yeah.
on top of, on top of, like, what can minimize, that's why I love the Electrum Cleanse. I mean, you can minimize the amount of products you're using and the chemical exposure and what you're putting into someone, which minimize. You can never eliminate risk, but if you can minimize, that's the name of the game. So, yeah, it's just doing those trial runs, and again, on our cells and in the family unit, if we will, see what works,
Right.
see what doesn't, and then being out, being able to be in other shops and teaching or convention, just listening, not being out talking so much, is really listening to the feedback you're getting. I mean, you've got artists sponsored by companies that they don't even use the fucking product. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
want a bunch of free shit or some money in their pocket. And I've seen it many times where it's not because it's the best product per se. It's that monetary gain. So you've really got to, again, we've all got to make money. We all have an overhead, right? But at the same time, that can't be your driving factor, because one lawsuit puts us all out of a fucking job.
Right.
So we want to minimize that risk with everything we do. There's always going to be shit you got to roll with, and it's going to come up that's unexpected, but you've got to, if you ever get taken into court and you can say consistently, this is what this is what we use to clean and prep, this is how we handle our sharps, you can prove process. You can prove process.
Nothing to worry about. Yeah. So being as versed in the regulatory landscape for as long as you have been, how do you, because I have my opinions about this, I'm kind of curious to know what you think. How do you see what do you think the industry looks like 5 years from now from a regulatory
Man,
perspective?
just from 5 years ago to now, I'm like, holy shit, you know what I'm saying? And technology and AI and all this shit, like Black Dot, like, I wish I had an answer for that, man. I don't know. I just know you got to bend that break and you got to find what works for you as an artist, find a home base that is going to support you and roll with change. Because even now I'm like, I didn't sign up for this shit. Like,
Yeah.
these are things I never ever thought I would. And I don't want to get into specifics for legalities or anything, but there's
Sure.
just situations, and just from a human management perspective, let alone products and protocols and all of that. Like, you know, um, it's just having that mindset of doing the right thing the right way for the right reasons, man, and hope that that is gonna, karma's real, bitch. And it's just really doing your best to assess it day by day and situation by situation. And even with me, I'm old school, like with technology, like that's not my gig. Social media is not my gig. I pay somebody to do that shit for the shop because
Right.
I don't enjoy it. It's not my thing. But if you're not relevant and visible, that's the old school yellow pages, man. Who had the biggest ad? It's like, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
it's that's the evolution of things,
Or who's in a
and it's
tattoo
like, well,
magazine? Yeah.
Yeah, and getting in all of that. It's just the game has changed like significantly, and I anticipated it will even more with technology leaps and bounds, just probably more so in the last 5 years than the last like 15, 20. You know what I mean? With
Yeah,
technology
yeah.
and shit and
And with the political
rotaries
landscape
and
constantly
fluctuators.
changing too.
What's that?
The political landscape
Oh
constantly
yeah.
changing the way it is. You got like, RFK in there now, and he's really hot and heavy on public safety and, more so around food products, but still I think a lot of that same stuff translates over to cosmetics as well. It's like that same focus. And I really see the the scrutiny on products in the space because you're right what you said earlier. Words really matter, and the FDA's and they've woven this injection word into our craft now pretty heavily. In a lot of ways. So that injection word puts a whole different spotlight on the products that we use. You know what I mean? So like from an FDA's perspective, that it makes them look at the products differently and really want to understand these products because if they are being injected, I mean, there's a whole different set of safety protocols that have to be
Absolutely.
applied to that.
Whole nother level.
Yeah.
You don't
So
want to have to be required to have a doctorate to tattoo.
no, I mean, there's a lot of things that could change. I really see in the product space a lot of changes happening in the next 5 years, as far as because our industry is comprised of a lot of tattooer owned businesses, so like even just a couple weeks ago I saw one of my friends who's been an artist for years, 40 plus years. And he was on social media and he's mixing his own pigment still in his shop. And I'm like, man, I'm like, you got to really watch what you're doing these days, and there's a lot of people paying attention to what we're doing. And I'm pretty sure, I gave him this whole list. I was like, this Mocha law just came out, and tattoo inks are considered cosmetics, and you have to you got to manufacture these things under these strict guidelines now. And the FDA is going to come knock on your door one day if you start going and trying to sell this stuff to people. And like, you got to have all your ducks in a row if they come and want to start seeing all your ISO certifications and your GMPs and your sterilization certificates and your microbial tests. And
My what? You know what I'm
he,
saying?
I don't even think, but I'm just saying that to point out the fact that I think a lot of people are manufacturing products under those same, just kind of like loose guidelines. And eventually the FDA is going to start nailing down all of this stuff. And I talk about lidocaine products a lot because it's already an FDA
Oh,
regulated
huge.
product.
Then on the radar. Yeah.
And but just think about how loosely used that is in the tattoo space. You know what I mean? And the uneducated artist that doesn't really understand the science of lidocaine or even how to properly use it or the right questions to ask their clients that want them to use that on them.
Yeah, I would like you to not go into have a anaphylactic shock or have a heart attack while you're on my table, please. What did you put in and even on the client side, they'll come in with shit on them. You don't know.
Exactly.
You don't know.
And then you're assuming that liability the second they sit in your chair.
The minute you do. Michigan just passed in the last few months that you may not use any lidocaine products at all.
Oh, really? Completely banned them,
Completely banned. And I
even
think
if
that
they're FDA approved products.
even OTCs, yep.
Really? What
Yep.
about like Bactine? Is that qualified too? You can't use Bactine?
I can you? Should you? I
I
mean, if
mean,
it has lidocaine in it, but I think they're referring more to like your numbing agent, things that are marketed as numbing agents, where Bactine has never been marketed as such ever.
right, right.
So I think thankfully that stays under the radar for some people, because I know a lot of people like to use that. I think Electrum Cleanse works wonderfully in lieu of, but everybody's gonna have their preferences. But I think it's more like the stuff you're gonna go on Amazon, like to find marketed specifically
Yeah.
to,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. I got what you're saying.
Yeah.
So how, again, I had asked this question earlier, and I suppose you probably don't know the overall answer, but how often is the Board of Health coming into your shop and doing inspections?
Once a year. And they call to make an appointment first. So it's not, but again, we fall under, which a lot of states do, we fall under environmental health. So turnover with inspectors is high. And it's the same, there's no, body art isn't a part of their initial training as a health inspector. It's public water systems, restaurants, things of that nature. And then once you're in the job, you're like, oh yeah, and here's body art. Figure that shit out. What? And how many inspectors have, I've never been in a tattoo parlor before. I'm like, well, you're inspecting me. Okay. So, and that's kind of what led us back in the day to just be like, hey, just come hang out, and then we developed a health inspector workshop to just primarily in Michigan to for free to just, sit down and show you how things work in a shop, and that open door policy that you are welcome to pop in anytime. If you have questions, hit us up. Like, again, every shop's run different. Even in the same shop, you're going to have, if you have all independent contractors, they're their own business. They're doing shit how they do shit. So the variance is huge. But again, from infection control, you should be seeing, these types of disinfectants, not glutaraldehyde, or rubbing alcohol isn't going to kill them, worse
Right.
than that. Like normal green soap. So it's just making sure, it's just trying to educate them, because a lot of the times, no fault to their own, like we give them a lot of shit for, you're just going to come in and cross contaminate my shit, but you're the one inspecting me. They don't know. We didn't know till we learned either, so it's just that sharing of information when they do come in, um, and then keeping a pulse on, I'm not on the board anymore, but I still get the emails and I still try to keep a pulse on what's happening from that standpoint. And I'm still open to open door policy. You want to stop in, hang out for a day, see how to set up, see how a procedure rolls, see how to tear down, see how we break down, um, because there's nothing that's going to, no better way to learn than to be in the environment and seeing it happen.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of The Business of Tattooing. Now, let's talk some real business. You're already using Electrum products. You're already tagging Electrum products because you love Electrum products. But why aren't you getting paid for using and tagging Electrum products? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because you haven't signed up to Electrum Insiders yet. But now you can, and it's real easy. Just scan this QR code on your screen or go to electrumsupply.net today to learn about Electrum Insiders and how you can earn cold hard cash for doing what you're already doing. We want to thank you at Electrum for using our products, so we created the Electrum Insiders program exclusively for artists just like you. So don't hesitate. Get on over to electrumsupply.net today and start earning money for the content that you're already creating. Now, let's get back to this week's episode. Yeah. So what all are you doing from an education standpoint now?
I've really backed off since post COVID. I had some little health scares, some health issues, in fall of 20, and was kind of told, well, you're running 3 businesses and doing a whole bunch of other shit. Something's got to give, man. Stress will kill you. Burnout is real. I like my heart. I'd like to keep it for a while. So, and it's a hard, for many, many years, that challenge really invigorated me and had me going, you know what I mean? I was very, very passionate about it. But around that time, it just got to like, I don't want to fight with people, man. Like, I don't want to fight with you. I'm trying to help, trying to contribute in a positive way. And it was just more, it just, I think the isolation, I think a lot of things, it was just like the perfect storm of, it just fucked a lot of people up, man. And
Yeah.
Um, and again, that's not what made me money. I'm in my 50s now. um, you know, I that took me away from home a lot, took me out of my shop a lot, traveling to teach. And just last night, as my daughter's helping me get set up for this, I had my resume printed out just to, kind of refresh some things. And she's like, "Holy shit, mom, that's 4 pages long. Like, that's your resume? No wonder you were gone so much when I was little." And I was like, damn, like I was gone a lot when, she's a
Yeah.
family and whatever, but and nobody's going to run your business like you.
Yeah.
I have a grandbaby now that's 18 months old. Like he's the shit. Um, it's not my do-over, but at the same time, I like to be present, in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I really wean myself back, and then other than my own shop and a couple of close personal friends shops, I'm not doing it. So it's like pass the torch, you know what I mean? I got a
Right.
quarter century in it. I hope that the contributions I made, um, again, that tried and true must stand the test of time of, like, let's help some people have longer careers to keep themselves safer and their clients safer. But burnout is real, man, and you got to take care of your mental health and shit. And
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to hear you say that because I definitely feel that. You know what I mean? Like I feel that myself, especially like coming off of the CTS thing when it was like a whole room full of people there, I mean, yeah, when that CTS first took off, I mean, there were a lot of manufacturing and industry people present. And then it just kind of fizzled and fell apart. And now today there's really there's really no one even interested in being a part of it now. You know what I mean? So it's like there's a couple guys out here like me and Sean Brown who are like trying to pick up the pieces of that and put it back together and see if we can get some momentum going back with the manufacturers again. Because for me, I feel like, and maybe this is where you were at all those years ago. Maybe you see a little bit of yourself in me right now, whereas like when you first got passionate about the safety part of things, your energy levels were high and you just wanted to do the right thing for the industry. But then as time goes on and you're talking to your peers and stuff and you're getting like that resistance and that pushback, you're just kind of like, what is it really worth? I mean, but then
yeah,
you're like,
it is though.
it is because somebody has to be the voice for us, you know what I mean? And so
Mhm.
then it's like it's really challenging to me to understand why more people don't want to get involved in that or have some voice in that. And the second part that's challenging with that is like, how do you get people to remove their egos from the equation and just focus on what really matters, outside of
Yeah.
whether it's good for me or not good for me personally. You know what I mean?
Mhm. And being proactive versus reactive, because the minute some regulation or law is passed, what the fuck? Where were you for the 10 years of this is nothing legislatively happens like this, man. It is a fucking process. It is a long, drawn out, back and forth, back and forth. It is a process, and you have to show up. Showing up is 99.9 fucking percent of it. Um,
Right.
and it gets discouraging when you're the only motherfucker showing up. But then you get all the kickback of like, what the fuck? You're just trying to make us be. No, you're as welcome as I am at all of these meetings, dude. All of them. You're just not showing up. So I'm advocating for you. I'm not trying to dictate anything to you. I am advocating. And
Right.
difference, but then that ego kicks in, that the
Yeah, I
non-tattooed
guess that
girl.
I guess hearing you say that, the stress and the burnout, I guess that's my biggest concern personally, from a personal standpoint is that, because I already kind of feel that, you know what I mean? I'm like, this is a tremendous amount of work. I don't get paid to do this. It's
Pro
like,
bono.
Yeah, it's all pro bono. Nobody's
Mhm.
dropping money in my account for doing this stuff. You know what I
No, and
mean?
your
It's like,
travel and your time away from your businesses, like
yeah, it's all out of pocket. It's all a sacrifice, right? So it's like choosing to do this. I'm like, man, am I crazy? Like, this is crazy.
you're
Like,
either crazy or you love it a whole lot or a little bit of both. I think it takes a little bit of both, and it does, but there's also that time where, and it really hit me around that time with all the health stuff. Somebody asked me, um, well, what are your hobbies? And I'm like, I work,
I know.
bloodborne pathogens, like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I didn't have anything outside of running my studio and advocating on the legislative side. That's all I've done for almost 30 years of my life. Like I don't, and then even with personal relationships, there's a reason I'm single at 54. When people realize this isn't just my job, like this is part of this is what I do. It's part of who I am. It's the core of my being. Like I can't, well, you can just like take the day off. You can do, you own it. You can do it. No, dude, it's not light. That's the reason I need to be there, because shit runs downhill. Like
Right.
you're not there leading, showing by example that, hey, I might not feel my fucking best today, but I'm going to put on my game face. I'm going to be here and do my best today. You can't expect the people that work with you and for you to do that. And especially now, generationally speaking, work ethic is very different opinions of what work ethic is anymore. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, oh, I have a
Yeah.
sniffle. Like, I can't come in for 3 days. Like, really? Okay. Like, push through it, motherfucker. But, you can't do that. And that's part of a big thing that's changed is how we can legally talk to people within our studio environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Legally, I can't be like, what the fuck? And in my head, it's still very much, what the fuck?
Yeah. I
But
know.
you have to learn to present it in a way that's like, hey man, just curious. What makes your approach? I'm curious to know what your approach is on that. You know what I'm saying? But in my head, it's still like, what the fuck? Like, we're really, and it's Groundhog Day. You know what I'm saying? It's generationally is all right, and you're having the same conversations with people that you had like 10, 15, 20 years ago. Like, really? I'm having this conversation again?
Yeah.
Common sense ain't so common type. It's a fucking job, bro. Like, I hate to break it to you. Can it be fun? Is it the coolest shit ever? Is there anything else that I'd rather do in life? No, no regrets, none whatsoever. I am so fucking thankful for every challenge I've had and every day I've had in this shop and in the industry and all of it, even though there are days, like you said, you're like, am I fucking nuts? Fuck that. Like, fuck it all, but that's when you take a deep breath and you're like, no, there's nothing else I would prefer, nothing else I want to do, man. There's nothing else I want to do. And, to just try to get that across to people that it's still, there's a whole bunch of shit you're not going to want to have to do. I don't want to do this workman's comp audit when we hang up from this fucking call, but that's what I have to do. So it's that 80-20 thing. 80% of the time you're doing shit that like you got to do. But then there's that 20% of the time that you're like, fuck yeah, this is why I do what I do.
Right.
Even from a client perspective, you got people that are all kinds of special, man. Your canvas is human. You got to learn some people skills. But then you have
Right.
those gems that really appreciate what you do and give you that free reign of, man, I just like your style. We vibe. I try. This is I fucking roll with it. And you're like, yes, that's why I do what I do. But when that whole day cancels and I'm not paid hourly, I'm gonna take them fucking walk-ins from that Big Ten college across the street, and I'm gonna at least be able to feed my family and make gas money and do what I got to do. It's like that. I don't know where at some point street shop became like such a negative connotation to it. Splash started as a street shop with customability, and we've always been a street shop with customability. And I think you've got to find that happy medium because, especially as much as the market's grown, and if you're going to have one shop that everybody does traditional, Now you got 30 shops around you, and several of them have some pretty dope people doing shit too. You're all fighting for the same shit. So, trying to set that up to diversify, having people at different skill levels, having people with completely different,
Yeah.
artistic fortes.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of something for everybody where, and I miss that. And thankfully, there are still a few people here that can rock it that way. But over time, one thing that I think has changed is just being able to do shit on the fly on a whim, that walking like, no, I need like so much time to, we gotta get this in Procreate, and I've gotta, it's gonna, and I get that if it's a fucking piece, but if it's peace, knock that shit out, man. You can do it. So that's a big change too, I think we've seen.
Do you still have flash on the walls?
Negative. We haven't had flash on the wall. Shit. Well over 12 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have framed flash and a gallery style of
Yeah.
mixed in with other shit. You know what I'm saying? Um, but it's not walk-in street shop style. You know what I
Man,
mean?
I'd love to see that come back,
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be
Because there was
cool.
that day, it was like, everything's lined up. There was no room on the wall. And then
Yeah.
you have flash racks, the big ass, two-tier. We had our flash racks,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I still have all. I didn't throw any of that shit away, man. It's still in storage. So I'm like, someday order, save everything. But it's history. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all his tattoo history, man. With the digital age, a lot of that stuff is,
Disappearing.
yeah, yeah. Sad
Yeah,
thing.
I'm actually building like not like there's not already tattoo museums, history museums. There's a bunch of them out there, but specific for our customers and artists that come in, I want to build a little like tattoo history wall in the showroom, just I just been buying needle jigs from some artists and some old,
Yeah, yeah.
just old equipment. I want to do kind of like a chronological, evolution of tattooing wall, you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, this is how we used to build needles, you know what I mean? And
In
like,
my day,
yeah, yeah.
you know, yeah.
No, I just think it's funny because, the artists today, I don't really think they appreciate a lot of it. You know what I mean? Like some of them do, but I think for the majority, I mean, it's just like they just grab onto whatever's currently available. They don't really like get too much into the
History,
analogs
your
of
lineage,
tattooing
yeah.
and really understand where that all came from. It was
The
cool.
reason you have the ability to do it now.
Yeah,
Those that came before you that built it, so you can. Yeah.
it was cool when we were out in Texas a few weeks ago because I think it was Brian who was showing a slide, or no, maybe it was Sasha. But anyway, somebody showed a slide of like a stick with a cactus needle attached to it, and it had tattoo pigment on the. They had found this thing somewhere, and so
Wow.
somebody from 1,000 years ago was using a cactus needle to put a tattoo on somebody with, and I just thought, man, that's crazy.
And that's it, like in when I decided to, purchase the shop from Dennis, and then the whole conversation of, well, what kind of it's a fad, it's just a passing fad. I'm like, this has been around since the dawn of man.
Yeah,
Like the oldest human remains ever found on this planet were tattooed.
yeah,
It's really not going anywhere. It's going to change, it's going to evolve, it's going to, it's it's not going anywhere. And at that point, you're not doing it for the mainstream anyway, per se.
right.
I mean, we're all end up being a part of that, but that's not why we're doing it,
Do you think a lot of tattooing could go back underground? I mean, with the
Oh,
regulatory
I think a
kind
lot
of
of it, I
focus?
mean, I think that's never gone away. It's never going to go away. And especially with the more regulation, and we see it even locally, I'm sure everybody does that. You got your tattoo parties, you got people, they don't want to pay that licensing fee. You're always going to have your basement tattooers, man. It's just, again, that part of the advocacy and getting out and educating kids that are starting to like tattoo their fucking face at 15. Like, why that's probably not a good idea, dude. And the health risks that there's a reason you should go to a legit licensed shop because they care enough to put all of this into it to keep you safe. Now, granted, we're really doing it to keep ourselves safe, and then we know you're safe. But, I think the education has to start a lot younger now, You do a lot, and I'll still do volunteer to speak at middle schools, high schools, whatever, because it's more prevalent these days. It's a hot topic, and kids are piercing themselves in the bathroom and tattoo. They're doing this shit like at school.
Yeah.
Uh, so just being able to present it, in a way that will somehow resonate that, it's there's better, cleaner, safer ways of doing shit that you're not going to regret.
What
Hopefully.
do you think well, I guess two-part question. How do you what's your opinion of tattoo schools like current, the current.
I've never had an experience where I saw one that was like, yeah, that curriculum's excellent and that's going to put out some solid tattooers. You know what I mean? It's more monetarily driven. I'm just going to turn you over real quick and you're going to
Not
be on
really
this for
teach you
3
anything?
fucking weeks. You know what I mean? So is there the potential there from people within this industry that have the knowledge and the experience and care enough to come together to put something together that could do well? Fuck yeah. I just don't think it's there.
Yeah, I know the APT's been working a lot towards like an industry standard education
And I
program.
think it would have to come be a side shot of that, or you know what I mean? Have that
Yeah.
affiliation, that backing, that because not
Do
just
you,
some dude that's like, I can apprentice. Well, let's just do 10 people at once. It's
yeah. Do you feel like a person that wants to be a tattoo artist should have to go through like an accredited training program that's specific to tattooing and safety practices and just teaching them all around the whole broad scope of what it is to be a tattoo artist?
we've never had that, so I can't say that I would feel that it's a requirement, but I feel what the requirement would be is for the person seeking out an apprenticeship. And again, they're learning as they go, but seeking out a mentor who's not going to pass down decades of bad habits. And that's a dirty fuck. You know what I mean? Like it's again going back to what is your liability as a trainer? You're responsible for what you're teaching this person. And I think it's on the mentor to be at a point in their own career where they have a grip of all of that and are comfortable enough with sharing that they want to bring into the industry people that are going to benefit the industry, instead
Right.
of
Heard it.
the opposite. You know what I mean? So do I see that coming eventually? Yeah, I do because the industry's blown the fuck up and there's
So
money. But
you think that regulatory people are eventually going to mandate that kind of a thing, whether it's
it's been
created
talked
within
about.
the industry?
Eventually I see it kind of going just like cosmetology school.
Right, right,
It might not be a degree, but it's going to be a certification. You know what I'm saying? Similar to what cosmetology, and then that's what it's compared to a lot when these
right.
conversations, at least the ones I've been privy to on the regulatory side, have happened. That they're, you need more training hours to cut hair than you do to tattoo. So, but right now it's very much trade based apprenticeship, finding that a mentor and a proper apprenticeship. But as an apprentice, you don't know what the fuck a proper apprenticeship is.
Right.
This dude's been doing it 30 years. You're going to be like, okay, cool. Well, again, you've got varying
Well,
variances.
now you have 6 month apprentices teaching apprentices.
Exactly.
Right, right.
Like, and that's why I'm not the only apprentices we've ever, I mean, I'd say in the 30 years I've been here, maybe six. And most of them all worked here for after they graduated. They worked here. We apprenticed you to work here. I mean, again, you're going to grow and go. Cool,
Right.
but I want you to be good enough to have standards to be here, and
Right.
then hopefully whatever knowledge you acquire, and that's for any artist that's worked here as well. Like again, it's not the be all end all, and things change, and Lord knows you do not know it all. One thing I do know is I don't know shit, but you roll with it as you go. And I hope that in the time people are here, because everyone contributes to the whole, right? And that you learn something while you're here that you can take with you wherever you go. Whether that's, can you tattoo safely and clean at a convention? Fuck yeah. Can you do that in a hotel room? Fuck yeah. You can create that space wherever you are. If you're an international where standards aren't what they are here, you can still, if you know your fundamentals and you know how to do it, you can take that with you anywhere you go. And I think that should be a priority in what's instilled in every new tattooer. And that even those of us that are, have been in the game for 30 plus years, you're never done. The minute you're done learning and you think you know it all, get the fuck out, because you are dangerous. Like you never know it. You don't know it all, man. You're never done learning. You're never done learning. Ever. So it's learning to roll with that. But I do see at some point down the line that there's probably going to be some sort of certification process, whether that starts with state and local health departments, whether that, it usually starts local and then goes up to a national level.
Right.
Um, I think it would be cool if that stemmed more from APT, because that is us for us by us type deal for the industry. Um, and knowing the resources and the people to pull in that would be, best tool for the job. Everybody has their own forte, and there's just so many facets of tattooing that people don't like. There's a lot more to this than you think.
Right.
There's many, many layers and levels that, and even if you are a seasoned veteran, there's still going to be situations that pop up that you're like, fuck, never seen that before. What do I do? you know and that's where you're having your networking, having your solid base of your connections and in front of you that you can bounce shit off of, and hey, have you seen this, or what do you think about this? And
Yeah, that's why I'm really hoping a lot of people just kind of tune in and hear these messages because I think I think a lot of people just aren't even aware, you know what I mean? Like they just aren't
oh,
aware. And even after all these years, you know what I mean? Like it
yeah,
like you said, it's not like it's just showing up here. It's been here. That spotlight's been on us for a long time. It's just I know from talking to people out in the industry, when I go to shows or even if I'm just traveling and talking to people on the road, it's just like a lot of people are just really not even really aware of what's happening. They're just going to their shop every day and doing what
their
they
day to
do
day.
and they do their thing. You know what I mean? It's not really affecting them right now. So, and that's why I had asked you, is it like a county to county thing where you're at? Because that's how it is here. I could tell you probably in my area, most of the artists around here probably they don't give a thought about regulations on a day-to-day basis because it's just not even something that's even talked about around here or even considered a thing of importance. It's just like,
Yeah. I mean, the only regular thing that matters is, what do I have to do to be in compliance with my local health department to open? And that's as
well,
far as they go with
and even some not even that. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Some places the board of health's not even involved at all. Like here in my county, they don't they don't ever come around. Like they don't come. They don't. The only time they're going to come is if somebody calls and registers a complaint, and then
yeah.
they have a reason that they've got to come check you out. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Otherwise, it's really on you to self-regulate. It's on you to do your bloodborne pathogens. It's on you to make sure that you're all up to date on all that stuff. And nobody's going to come and double check your work to make sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's. They don't. You know, you call
Throwing
my board of
cartridges
health
in
and
the
they're
trash.
like, what's that?
Throwing cartridges in the general trash, and
Yeah, yeah, that's what I mean.
"Hey, what's the sharps container?" Like, I don't know.
As long as nobody's calling them, then they're not going
Mhm.
to spend the money to send somebody, you know?
Right. Yeah. So
So,
it varies.
well, again, I think, that's the one thing that I'm not quite sure about on the regulatory side is because I don't know what their staffing models look like. I don't know what their budgets look like. You know, how, of course they can make money, but how aggressive can they be and how much resources do they have to put into that? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like the MOCRA thing, you have deadlines and then they get extended out because the FDA is not as far along as they needed to be with specific things. But the FDA is coming around and they are visiting ink manufacturers and they are validating that you're doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. So, I mean, they are present, but
Yeah.
to cover every shop in every county, I mean, that's a pretty monumental task.
Oh, huge, especially when you have like one inspector for all the restaurants, all the public swimming pools, all the groundwater facilities, wastewater facilities, and tattoo shops. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's impossible to do.
Well, that's why I would think shop owners would be welcoming someone like you who's in the industry to come in there and say, hey, I'm trying to help you out. I just want to make sure that you guys are, above water here, and I would. That's I guess where I get a little bit, like I was saying earlier, a little bit worried about that kind of lashback because it's like, yo, I'm really just trying to help out. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to do anything to hurt you. And I would think that people in the industry would welcome people from within the industry to be those advocates and those people to represent them and help them. And I think that's ultimately what we're trying to do with like APT and like outside groups. I think that's what CTS was trying to do is really just kind of try to form that unified voice and that nucleus
Yeah.
uh, parent person to be able to say, hey, I hate even using that word parent because I feel like that even has a negative.
Yeah. Just
Uh,
trying to help you fuckers.
yeah, yeah.
you
But
know?
I would feel a lot better about that if it was like, um, just if there was more excitement about it within the industry, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's just not an exciting topic for anyone in my experience over the years. And
Well, it's like talking about taxes. Who wants to talk about that?
exactly. It's like oh, have to. It's one of those things I have to do. It's like it's one of those things you should want to do for your own selfish reasons, you know.
Right, right.
But a lot of pushback, and even locally. I mean, it's people love me or hate me, and there's really not a lot of middle ground there. You know what I'm saying? And cool, do you? I focus on what I block out the noise. You know what I mean? Everybody's going to do what they're going to do. Their opinion of me is none of my business. I'm just going to keep plugging away to, again, what seems fair, what is logical, what is safe, what works, what doesn't work. We've tried tons of shit that just doesn't work. We've done some over the top shit back in the day, especially on the piercing side. Like, Jesus Christ, you don't have to fucking autoclave and use
Yeah.
what melts real quick. And again, that's where you have to find that reasonable level where it's not cumbersome and overburdening and over regulatory, but where you can still enjoy what you do. And really, if you get in a groove, like I tell everybody, if once you get in the groove of, we get here an hour before the shop opens, and we have a routine, and we do our routine. And once you get into that routine, it becomes habit. And once it's habit, you're not even fucking thinking about it. And then you go do a guest spot somewhere, you go work a show, and you're like, whoa, like maybe we should wipe that down. you know? Um, but it just helps that mindset. And like I said, and I hope that's something that people that spend time here, whether that's as a resident artist, guest artist, what have you, can take back to wherever they're going and wherever they continue to go. And then they're going to be working with whoever they're working with, and they're going to be like, oh, well, why do you do it like that? Well, hey man, this is just way more time efficient, saves me time, it's cleaner, it's safer, I'm using less product. Like, it takes some getting used to. It takes
Mhm.
some getting used to, but you just got to do it consistently, and then it becomes a habit. Once it's a habit, you got that it just flows, man. And that's the thing, is finding that flow instead of it being this constant pushback. And I literally had, who was a good friend of mine, we worked together for a very, very long time, and just came up and he's like, you know what? I'm going and opening my own shop. I feel like more of a fucking janitor here than a goddamn tattoo artist. And fuck this place, I'm out. Okay, cool, man. Like, that's your okay. You have every right to feel how you feel, but this is how I run my shit. And if you're gonna be here, this is how we do shit. 5 years after opening said shop, damn, man, now I see why you had to do shit like that, man. I had to fire my boy and he was cross contaminated. All this shit. I couldn't fucking believe it. Like, how don't people know this shit? I'm like, because you learned it as you went. Now it's natural. You don't even think about it. But then
Right.
nobody taught this dude, right? So, those are, some of the experiences you have with
Hmm.
trying to do what you feel is the right thing. There's even pushback within your own ranks sometimes, man. And but people got to do what people got to do to figure out for themselves what works best for you. You know, it's going to be
Now,
different wherever you go.
now with your shop, are all your artists there? They've been there with you for a long time. Do you have?
Yeah. Like, yeah, for anywhere from 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, 5 years. I think, 2 years is the least amount of time the newer person. So,
But your artists are
but
pretty
I try
much
to treat
sticking
people,
there.
like I'm not a huge corporate, there's a lot of things I can't do financially that I would love to give you all health insurance. I would love to, you know what I mean? There's certain things that, because I don't have a huge profit margin and I'm working more on quality than quantity. So I just try to take care of people on the day to day and provide the best of, like, what does any tattooer want to see when they walk into a station? You know what I mean? The best tools, the best equipment, the best supplies, everything's provided for you. 70-30 split, you know, and out of that 30%, like, I cover your malpractice, I cover your liability, I cover,
Wow.
all you got to do is show up. I don't touch machines. That's you. Other than machines and power supply, I supply everything. 100%.
All their inks and everything,
Everything.
and a 70-30 split.
Yes.
Wow.
I'm gonna fucking take care of people because I don't want
Yeah.
turnover. And over time and longevity, again, I'm and that's where I'm kind of a fucked up business person, because I'm not working on profit margin. Profit. I mean, I am, because it's a real thing and you have to, but I get to do what I love and love what I do every day. And I get to choose who I work with. I get to surround myself by people they have strengths I don't have, I have strengths they don't have, and then the synergy of how that all comes together. And they've invested time. I have, uh, an artist that drives from Coldwater, Michigan, is an hour and 45 minutes each way.
Wow.
That drive from Flint or north of Flint, that's an hour, almost an hour and a half without construction each way, for 20 fucking years. So I'm gonna take care of my people, because I want my people to want to be here,
Right.
take care of the shop, which in turn takes care of me. So I'm not trying to, the days of that, but that's evolved. Back in the day, it was 50-50 split. You supply all your own shit. I'm not
Hmm.
taking care of any of your taxes. And that's another thing that's kind of a hard sell on people that have been independent contractors for so long. When they come and I'm like, no, we're employees here. Like, you get a biweekly paycheck with all your taxes taken out. But trust me, when you go to do grown folk shit, like buy a house and buy a car and da da da, your life is way easier when you can present a W-2 versus 3 years of taxes from a 1099. Where
Right.
once you claim all your expenses and all your shit because you don't want to pay taxes, your income isn't shit, because you just tried to write everything out. You have no income. And as an employer, like, I'm also saving you part of your tax burden. Like I'm paying a portion of your tax burden for you,
Mm-hmm.
which is not easy or convenient. That shit's expensive. Like
Yeah.
overhead here, and especially being across the street from a Big Ten college, like overhead out here is fucking stupid. But location, location, location. We get 8,000 to 10,000 freshmen dropped in our lap every August. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
that rotation of, so for us, we know August, September, January, February are my busiest months of the year versus industry wide, people are more bumping in the summer.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So,
You're not suffering from that holiday.
and you learn that ebb and flow. It's a seasonal industry. You're going to have busy times and you're going to have slow times. And people that came into the game around COVID, where everybody had their PPP money and all the free money booked out weeks and months in advance, that was not the norm for those of us that have been doing this. And that was the conversation we would all have. I was like, get it in while you can, man, because it's good and ride that wave, but you better be saving some shit and brace yourself because
Yeah.
you don't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Even now, from what's going on in the world with things today, like nothing we use is made here. So with all these tariffs and shit and the way and medical and COVID is still very real in my brain where, I use the same suppliers at that point for over 2 decades and medical suppliers, and they cut us the fuck off because we weren't medical or dental. And you couldn't get shit. Thanks for doing business with us for 23 years, but you ain't getting shit. And then
You know
you're
what?
$10 a box of gloves to 30. So, it's that trying to stay ahead of that curve, man.
You know what's crazy? I just heard on the radio like an hour before we hopped on here. I listen to Bloomberg all the time. I'm listening to like the economic news and kind of always trying to pay attention to what's going on. But I had heard just about an hour before we got on that the government's made $1.1 billion in revenue from tariffs.
We've paid that.
We've paid that. Now, the one thing that I didn't catch that I wish I would have had time to go back and figure out, I didn't hear the time frame of when that 1.1 billion was generated, but I think because I kind of caught on the tail end of the discussion, but I think they were just talking about from when Trump put the tariffs in place here a couple months ago. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah, April, May.
$1.1 billion within a few months span of time, I believe, right? So
Huge.
that's just like mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. Yeah, we paid that as
We
consumers.
paid that.
That's why the cost of everything is so high right now.
Yep.
So the government can make that extra $1.1 billion dollars in revenue.
Mhm. And
It's
none of it's trickling down to us.
no, it's not.
Fuck no. And that's where it's like, I took out a small loan in May when all that for shit was first just talking about and talking about. Because again, I'm thinking back, COVID was only a couple years ago. I'm not going to get stuck. I'm going to make sure we have a minimum of 3 months of operating supplies and equipment on deck in case shit hits the fan. And even if shit doesn't hit the fan and I've got some backstock, prices are not coming down. I'm at least locking in May's price versus even from May to now on a lot of shit. Couple bucks here, couple bucks there, couple bucks here. And I really love and appreciate the suppliers that are like, we're not going to hit you with that. And we're going to try. And it's like, yeah, but you have backstock right now. So when you run out of your backstock and you got to re-up on your raw materials, you're not going to have a choice but to stay in business.
Right,
So
you're not gonna take a hit just to keep me
no,
happy.
no, you got to pass it on to the consumer. You
Right,
got to pass it on to the consumer.
right.
So, it's not like I'm trying to like doomsday hoard by any means, but I'm also not going to get stuck, not, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
not being able to function. I want my people to have that peace of mind that all right, we're Gucci, like we're good right now. We have too much right now, but it's not enough for you know what I mean? I'd rather have a surplus than a deficit. You know what I mean?
yeah,
You've got to forward think like that.
yeah. It's interesting. Well, hope it doesn't look like tariffs are going away anytime soon. So I mean, we're gonna be paying those taxes for a long time, I think, you know.
Yeah. And
And
I
then
think too, it's been said in times past, early 2000s, whatever, that we're recession proof and what have you, and we are and we're not. I think that where we have the advantage of other industries is that it's still real, it's still people to people. People cannot control what the fuck's going on out there, but you can control this. You can control your choice of what you choose to do with your body. And if you can't afford to take a vacation or you're afraid to go out of the country, you can't afford a big ticket item, you can afford a nice tattoo. It's still it's an affordable luxury, if you will, and you get to have it forever. It's not going to fucking break down on you. You get to take it with you.
and it
So
makes you look better.
yeah, so fucking absolutely, it's an investment. So I think that I see the slow, and I know everybody's slow. It's not just, I know if we're slow, other people are like hurting. And I've seen it and heard industry wise and talking to people. Everybody's slow. And that's that perfect storm again of there's more shops and people tattooing than there ever have been in the history of ever. And the uncertainty of the economy and the world as it is. So I think we're going to see a lot of these pop up, not, some of these smaller, I'm not going to say places that shouldn't be open, but maybe some of them places that shouldn't be open,
Right,
uh,
right.
they're gonna have to go get a day job like back in the day, way back in the day. You had your seasons and you did other things in off season and then you tattooed in the season, You're gonna see maybe some more of that, but also maybe there's gonna be more of that communal people realizing there's power in community, there's power in numbers of coming back together to formulate powerhouse of dope ass fucking artists that work well together instead of 6 individual shops being able to find a way to work well together and what they've learned from owning their own shops, right? So until you own a shop, you don't have that perspective. Just like if you don't tattoo, you don't have that perspective.
Right.
So hopefully that'll encourage more communal, and then we'll level out the industry a little bit, and then we'll get through this slow slump and then kind of kick up on that busier hump again, but it's never going to go away. Thank you. It's never going to go away.
Yeah, what kinds of things are you doing at Splash of Color to, what are your artists doing to kind of keep traffic coming through the door in the slow times? Are there certain things that you guys are doing? Like, do you guys get involved with the community at all? Do you guys do?
And doing fundraising, they're like, well, I want to do a bunch of free shit. It's like, well, we're not doing free shit and I'm supplying everything. You know what I mean? And I still give them a cut, you know what I mean? But that community service stuff, you might be doing $100 tattoo and like I give the artist 50 and then the organization 50, and I'm just writing off the supplies. Everybody gets a first tattoo somewhere and most people are going to get a second one. So from every single event we've done, from promoting shelters, animals and kids, I'm here, Casa for Kids, Humane Society, um, Firecracker Foundation, all of that. For the people that come in, they're coming in with good intentions, I guess you could say, of why they're doing this. And then you start to build that rapport and they come back and then they refer people to you. So it's not just the event or just that tattoo you're doing, like any tattoo. It's not just what you're doing right now. It's once they leave, and either they're going to come back or they're going to refer people back to you. So it's not that instant gratification thing. It's that long haul ripple effect thing. And it supports your local community because we're all grassroots. I mean, you can have a million fucking likes, but that dude overseas isn't coming here to get tattooed next week. You know what I mean? You've got to keep your core local community at hand. For us with, the university across the street, staying relevant, everybody's buried in their phones. So all of our artists have their own socials that, they promote. And then I have someone, a social media person for the shop that pulls from them and then posts for us. to try to stay relevant and on top of shit that way. Because you have to have that. And very honestly, it's just treating every person that comes through that door like they deserve to be treated. And word of mouth is still, I mean, regardless of internet, the pros and cons. Like before you'd piss somebody off, they'd leave. 10 to 20 people might hear about it locally because we didn't have internet. Now somebody's pissed, one bad review, one cancel call, you know what I mean? Like it's so
Ripple effect.
there's pros and cons there, but I think it's really doing your best, being consistent, bringing your best self, leaving your bullshit outside of there because your energy you're putting into those fucking people and into your artwork, doing the best job, being thankful they came here because they just passed like literally 30 to 50 other fucking shops on their way here to pay to park, to come in, you know what I mean? To all the things. And if you're doing your best work, you build loyalty that way. And I'm big on loyalty. Like customer satisfaction is good. I'm good with that. We'd probably go back there. I'd probably recommend them, but loyal motherfuckers aren't going anywhere else. So I would rather, I probably over a decade ago, I stopped doing like radio ads and print ads and all that kind of shit. And instead gave my artists a bigger cut and invest more in the time and the clients that are here taking those resources because we've asked on release forms since 97. How'd you hear about Splash of Color? Friend, family, you know what I mean? The majority of it is still very much word of mouth.
Right.
Biggest referrals. So take care of the people coming in, picking up your phone, be fucking nice, just treat people well. That's hard. Customer service, anywhere you go, customer service is in the shitter. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
even
It's
if
gonna
you're
get worse.
mediocre these days, people are like, wow, you guys were so nice. You were so cool. Fuck yeah, And I'll pop in a room and be like, hey man, oh, that's fucking dope. Let's hook you up on some aftercare today or try this out because we want to try this out. We know you've had a lot of hours with us and you know how to heal your shit. So let us know what you think about this or just working with people, man. You've got to work and appreciate the people showing up for you, walking through
Yeah.
your door. And I think if you invest in that, that's what's gonna, it's not, I mean, you have to be relevant online. You do. But that's not the be all end all of the core of your existence. You know what I mean? You still
100%.
have some fucking people skills.
100%. Yeah. That's
Take
great.
care from an owner taking care of staff to staff taking care of clients. The clients are our boss, even though they're not, because the customer's not always right. But you know what I mean? Without them, we have no business. So it's learning to walk that line.
Right. So none of your artists have had to go get a part-time job at Home Depot yet,
None.
right?
And because they were employees through COVID, they were all able to get on unemployment within a week, where I watched so many people, my friends, like local, just people like struggling and waited months before they could have any income stream coming in. So,
Right.
you know, um, like I'll cut front of the house and I'll go up and work the front desk to save money before I cut a tattoo or a piercing. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Right.
They're the ones generating income.
Do you, is a large portion of your business piercing still? Like, do you do a lot of
It's
piercings?
what's awesome about it is even though they're together, they are completely separate.
Right.
The way the world works is they offset one another in the weirdest ways. Where like when tattooing's really slow, piercing will be bumping. When piercing's kind of in a lull, tattoos are bumping. You know what I mean? So you have that. You're not relying on one or the other solely. You have that. That balance.
How
And
many
very
piercers do you
honestly,
have?
huh?
How many
Pardon?
piercers do you have?
4.
Oh, yeah, four there.
So we're open
Wow.
7 days a week. So they're not 4. We have 2 piercing rooms and 4 tattoo stations. So
So you have hours set for each of your employees, like a regular job?
we have shop hours, and then we sit and we negotiate as far as what schedule works best for you. I want the schedule that's going to work best for you, because if it works best for you, you're going to call in less and da da da. So I make everybody take consecutive days off. Like if you want to work 4 longer days, whether you break that up 2 and 2 with a day in the middle, or you want 3 days off in a row, work 4 consecutive. We find that what works best for that person. It's different for everybody. But these are the shop hours. And so because we have more artists than we do stations, like my senior artists are stationary. That is their fucking station. That's where they work every day. The artist without the seniority, you're a floater. You're going to work in whatever station's open today. But they're all pretty, the decor might be different because I let that senior artist, deck your shit out however you want. You have to sit in here all day, not me, right? But how the station supply wise are set up, where the sharps are, where the hand washing sink is, that's all uniform. So
Right,
anybody
right.
can work out of any station at any time and still be comfortable, with where they're working. So you've got to have that flexibility with people. Because if you're too, you got to be here, it doesn't work. And especially when you're fortunate enough to have people driving the length of, spending 3 hours on the road to and from work, I'm gonna work with you.
Right.
And if you tell me, hey, shit's getting to me, man, I need, I'm just gonna take the next month off and then I'll come back and hit it hard. Cool. We'll roll with what we got. I'd rather be understaffed with people that their energy is up and they're putting their best work out and they're here, versus bumping out a bunch of half-assed, you know what I mean? And dealing with people, you know what I mean? That management side of shit is real. Dealing with people's shit is a lot of what I do, and I don't dig it, man. If you're happy, you like it, I love it. It's
Yeah.
you've got, and we're all human. We're gonna have bad days, good days, whatever, and that happens. But I'm a huge supporter of, if you need time, take the time. I'd rather you call off and call in and keep your grumpy ass at home, show up tomorrow when you're feeling better, than come in and bring everybody down. I'd rather take the financial hit today, because it's the long game. You're going to come out ahead in the long game. You might have to take a hit here and there in the short term, but in the long term, that's what keeps you going.
Kris, what's been your biggest challenge in all the years since you took over the shop? What's been your biggest challenge as a business owner?
Being a female that doesn't tattoo
And
or pierce.
how have you been able to overcome that and still find success in your business?
Putting myself through the same apprenticeship time and effort as apprentices are required to. Like back with Dennis in the day, learning everything I could about how things work, how things roll, what goes into it. Respecting the trade, not thinking because I own a shop, I'm entitled to shit. Um, Learning how to work with people, hiring and surrounding myself with people with very different skill sets and strengths than mine. And just trying to be doing my best to be fair. Like, I am not always right. Nobody is, you know what I mean? But really, because sometimes you got to make that decision on a whim when you might not have all the information, but you've got to, really have, for me, it's what is in the best interest of the studio and what's fair for the practitioner or the client, the shop, and go from there, and when I'm wrong, I will fucking admit I'm wrong and I'll do everything I can to make it right now, you know? Like, oops, forgot to put your tips on your paycheck. My bad, dude. That's a lot of numbers I was dealing with. Let me take care of you right now. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
being able to be humble enough to admit, like, when you fuck up, own it and fix it and move on. Just move on. Don't be dwelling in old shit. And the biggest thing is to just let your work speak for itself. Like, other people's opinions of you, like I said earlier, it's not my business what you think of me. I'm just, that'll eat you up. This industry can chew you up and spit you out quicker than shit if you allow it to. You got to have some thick skin, man. You've got to have some thick skin. And, if you put yourself out there over time, that tried and true, people are going to see where your motives are really coming from, and and that you truly give a fuck because you're still here. you know. And I hope this lasts 30 years past I'm gone. I want to contribute something to this industry that long surpasses me, and to me, especially on the health and safety side, more than the shop side even. Like, one's definitely helped the other, and contributed to the other, but I really hope, in looking back, like, hey, that conversation or that class I had really helped me understand how to keep myself safe.
Hmm.
And now I can tattoo till I choose I don't want to, instead of having to stop for some unforeseen health reason that was completely preventable.
Right. Well, that's good. That's really why I wanted to get you on the podcast because, it's always been this, this big, debate in the industry, like people that don't tattoo shouldn't have tattoo shops. But I think it's good to get someone like yourself on here who's done all the things that you've done, who clearly demonstrates that they know how to run a studio, that they put the industry first and the craft first and the artist first, and you're running a shop the way a shop should be running. You're taking care of the artists and you're doing things safely. And so I
Thank
was
you.
I was happy to have you on the podcast to hear that from you, and I'm pretty sure the rest of the industry will gain from that as well. And I think it's very inspirational to people that might be thinking about starting a tattoo shop or that currently own a tattoo shop. Maybe they're struggling with some of these things and they're looking, for that kind of advice. And it's good to know that are still doing some educational stuff and that you're an educational resource for people. So if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Everything through the shop is at splashttattoos.com. Whether that's all our socials. Um, that's just the best way to, everything kind of filters in from that direction. Kris at splashttattoos.com is my direct email. KRIS. Um, so we're here. And
Well, that's
again,
great.
anything I can help with, I'm happy. I don't have all the answers, man, but if I don't, I'll let you know, and hopefully we can learn something together and finding out what that answer is.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Well,
don't want to be wrong too.
I appreciate everything you do and your contributions to the APT and your regulatory help through all the years and stuff like that. And
Thanks,
I,
man.
I encourage you to keep on that path and but not too much. Enjoy all that time with your grandkids.
Yeah, he's the shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, thanks for taking time with me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.